Hey co-stars, welcome to Generation Films. My name is British Ben. Now, Star Trek, the original series, was an interesting show. Despite its cult following and its progressive values, it did have its share of flaws. Like, why do the red shirts always die? Why was early Klingon makeup basically blackface? And why did they forget to add the sky to this green screen shot? Oh, that was meant to be a green sky? Okay. But the ship itself, the USS Enterprise, was pretty solid, right? I mean, it was the star of the show. Well, it seems that it had its share of flaws as well, and it shows even in the Star Trek universe. You see, the Excelsior class ships served for 100 years. It really was a tried and tested design. But the Constitution class, which is what the original Enterprise was, only served around 30 years in its original form, from the 2330s to the 2360s. And then in the 2370s, the entire class went through a complete refit and served for a few decades more, but not that many of them made it into the 24th century. So in this video, like we have done with other Star Trek ships, we are going to go through 10 flaws of the original USS Enterprise, and we'll include the Enterprise A as well because it's the same class. All right, let's get going. Number 1, bridge an easy target. Now I know I've talked about this with other Star Trek ships, but with the original Enterprise, it's even more pronounced. Just look at how much this bridge sticks out at the top of the saucer section. Talk about an easy target. And you know what happens when enemies target the bridge. Well, that was the Enterprise E like 100 years later, but you get the idea. What is more, this thing on top is actually a window. Have a look at how it is portrayed with kind of terrible special effects in the original pilot, The Cage. Isn't having a big window right above the crew's heads kind of a weakness? I mean, we know, for example, the Klingons exploited a weakness using cameras to look for information on control panels in order to blow up the Enterprise D. And here is another image where you can see it really is a huge window and you can clearly see control panels and people on the bridge. All you would need is a camera with good magnification so you could hover over there cloaked and get all the information you need. So yeah, kind of a security risk. I think the makers of the show realized this, and later plans of the ship show this dome was listed as an upper sensor array. Maybe that was after the refit. It seems that in the original form of the Constitution class, there was just a massive window here. Number 2, technical problems. Now this was the case with the Enterprise A, which I'm including here because it was a constitutional starship like the original, although it was the refitted, updated design. But after the ship was built, it was plagued by technical problems.
Alert. I just fixed that damn thing.
Yet Starfleet sends them out on a mission anyway. Yeah, they had a tendency to do that, and they never learned. Just look at what they did to the Enterprise B a few decades later.
Tractor beam. Tractor beam.
We don't have a tractor beam.
You left space dock without a tractor beam.
It won't be installed until Tuesday.
But what can you do, eh? Perhaps in a universe where money doesn't exist, you just can't get the staff to do things right. You get what you pay for. Number 3, unresponsive shields. In the battle between the USS Enterprise and the USS Reliant, commanded by Khan in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, we hear Kirk say,
"Ray shields."
But it seems the shields never go up.
Fire!
Now this was a tense situation with the Enterprise approaching an unresponsive vessel, which then proceeds to raise its shields and then power up weapons. You'd think the tactical officer's finger would be hovering over the shields button the whole time, just waiting for the order to press. So, I don't know, it makes me think maybe when Kirk does give the order, it just takes ages for the shields to turn on. Kind of makes me think of Dr. Nefario's scooter from Despicable Me 2. You press the button and it takes like 10 minutes for the thing to actually work, and it seems they don't get the shields on for the entire battle.
Sure will get those shields up. Trying, sir.
Number 4, bridge panels explode. Imagine living in a house that had dynamite in the walls. The slightest vibration and the whole thing explodes, showering sparks and flames and smoke all over your family. Because that's what they had to deal with on the Enterprise. Hit the Enterprise anywhere on the ship and the bridge just instantly explodes. And yeah, I do mean anywhere on the ship. Look at this shot of the Enterprise A being hit with a torpedo on the back underside of the hull, the complete opposite side of the ship, and control panels on the bridge still explode. I hope they get hazard pay for this. Oh yeah, they live in a future socialist utopia where money doesn't exist. they work to better themselves. Well, I hope they better themselves through the process. Number 5. Thin neck. Another weakness of the original Enterprise that was pointed out by Star Trek ship designer John Eaves was the very thin neck. He referred to the second battle between the Enterprise and the Reliant in the Wrath of Khan, where the Reliant attacks the Enterprise's neck. Eaves thought that with a few shots, with the shields down remember, you could just cut through the neck and basically cut the ship in half. That's why when he designed the Enterprise E, he completely did away with any sort of neck whatsoever. And yeah, Eaves was right. Not only was the neck thin, but it also housed part of the warp core and the ship's complement of photon torpedoes. Basically, if this thing was attacked without shields, as was the case when Khan attacked the neck, the ship literally would have been blown in half. Interestingly, the Excelsior class also did away with the very thin neck in favor of something much wider. The Excelsior also housed its warp core and the torpedo launchers in the neck, but because there was a lot more material around it, there was a lot more protection for this very explosive part of the ship. Number 6. Easy to steal. Now, the original Enterprise really wasn't that hard of a ship to steal. In the original series, we have one time where a glowing entity takes control of the ship and locks the crew out.
So, change of course. Override. Nothing response, Captain.
Okay, but you could argue that that was some kind of supernatural being, so we'll give them a pass on that, but there were at least another 2 times when the Enterprise was stolen. First, we have Star Trek 3, where Kirk have handed the ship back to Starfleet and it's due to get decommissioned. Kirk asks for it back, but he's denied, so they decide to steal it, and literally they just fly it straight out of space dock. I mean, wouldn't Starfleet have taken back Kirk's key or changed the access codes or something? You'd think that they would have. And then you have this instance in Star Trek 5 where the ship is stolen by this guy, Sybok.
I intend to steal something. Something very big!
He takes Kirk and Spock hostage and they fly back to the Enterprise on a shuttle. Now, as soon as the shuttle lands, wouldn't a security team be there to secure the area? But no, they're left with this terrorist. Spock fails to shoot him because he's a Vulcan, and he ends up taking over the whole ship. There are literally so many things that they could have done to prevent that from happening, like just, I don't know, locking some doors or bridge crews monitoring security cameras in the shuttle bay and seeing what was going on, sending down a crew. Literally, my house is more secure than the Enterprise with my Ring video doorbell. And security didn't get any better in the 24th century either. Here is a Ferengi passenger on the Enterprise D just opening up an unlocked cargo door and stealing an incredibly precious cargo. Number 7. Easy to sabotage. So in the episode Elan of Troilus, I think that's how you say it, this dude, who looks like he belongs in a 1970s disco band, manages to access main engineering. Again, simply locking the door would have kept things secure, but anyway, he manages to access main engineering and open up the dilithium chamber, seemingly by pressing just one button. And yeah, he sabotages the ship.
The antimatter pods are rigged to blow up the moment we go into warp drive.
So yeah, invest in some locks, guys, it'll stop you getting blown up. Number 8. Only one way on and off the bridge. Yes, you heard that right, there was only one route to get to the main bridge, and it was this turbo lift at the back. And what happens if that fails? Well, this.
Turbo elevators inoperative.
So in the episode Space Seed, Khan manages to shut off the lift and life support to the bridge. The crew thus cannot escape and start to pass out, and Khan manages to get hold of the ship, which is like the 10th time the Enterprise has been taken over or something. But they did sort out these weaknesses when they designed the Enterprise D. You can clearly see there are 2 turbo lifts, top and bottom right, each with a reserve turbo lift car, and there's an additional turbo lift on the left that goes directly to the battle bridge. And in addition to that, the Enterprise D's bridge had its own life support systems which were independent of the rest of the ship. Number 9. Poor quarantine policy. Now, living in the time of COVID-19, we all know about quarantining. When I went to visit my family in the UK at Christmas, I had to wear a mask for 7 hours on the plane, and then when I arrived, I had to quarantine for 5 days. In the time of the United Earth Starfleet, they also took quarantining very seriously. They would require crew members, male and female, to go into a sealed chamber together and sensually rub decontamination gels all over each other's bodies. That was the first episode of Star Trek Enterprise. Were the ratings of the show really that bad? Voyager didn't have to resort to sex appeal until the 3rd season. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, quarantine. So normally it would be standard practice whenever bringing a foreign life form aboard the ship that could have contamination or whatever, that you would quarantine it for a period of days. But it seems on the original Enterprise, anything goes. Uhura gets hold of this incredibly cute creature at a space station and just casually brings it aboard. First thing it does is give birth to babies. And before long, they have infested the ship. So yeah, having some kind of quarantine chamber with sensual massages and decontamination gels, very important. And now we're on to our last weakness. Number 10, a separate phaser firing room. Yes, you heard that right. Although this may have changed by the time of the movies and become more automated, in the original series it seems that there was a separate phaser firing room that the bridge would actually have to radio down to get them to charge up phasers and fire weapons. Look how long it takes.
Energize. Acknowledge.
Phaser control acknowledging. All weapons energizing to full.
That was like 13 seconds. Khan would have snapped the ship's neck by then. And if the people down there are busy flirting rather than working, you may never get to fire phasers.
Happy wedding day. Almost.
I'm gonna marry you, mister.
Alright guys, that was our 10 flaws of the original Enterprise. Some were genuine flaws, some were just funny things so I get to crack a few jokes. But anyway, which one's your favorite? Let me know down in the comments below, and if I missed any, let me know about that too. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you're new. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.